Hi there, this is Niki Rowland for Spiegel Mom Scraps, and today I am making a layout using some of the really tiny sequins in the store. It's called I Love You More, that's the sequin mix there, and I'm using this really gorgeous cut file, All the Feels, by Virginia Walker, that's also available for free in the Spiegel Mom Scraps store, so go ahead and grab that. I have cut it from a piece of coloured pattern paper. It's a Heidi Swap Colour Fresh collection, and it's that paper with all of the different colours on strips, and it's kind of like pinks and oranges and reds, that kind of thing. So I've cut it out of that, so you get this kind of effect going down the cut file. And now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the sequins. I was thinking about filling up the hearts with them, but actually what I've decided to do in the end is stitch around some of the hearts using the sequins, so stitching them in place. So I'm going to go for this top heart here, and I'm going to just pierce holes all the way around to begin with. And then I'm going to sew the sequins on individually using silver thread, and I'm going to use a back stitch to do that. So yeah, just starting off there. What I was trying to achieve on this was to have all of the same sequins going around one of the hearts. Now in a sequin mix like this, where there's loads and loads of different types of sequins, that is easier said than done. And I had major panics most of the way through my stitching that I was going to run out. And actually I did in the end, I did run out. I didn't have quite enough. I had 2 more that I needed. So I've had to choose 2 slightly different ones from this set still, this sequin mix still, but they are different to the others. But I don't think anyone would notice. They're quite similar. They're a lighter shade, but with the colour pattern paper in the background, actually they look okay. So I'm hoping I get away with that. Anyway, so you can see it's a bit of a slow process stitching these sequins on. It takes a little while to get each one stitched in place. It is a very straightforward stitch. It's just a back stitch. I'm literally going through and then back through the next sequin to make sure that it stays in place. Just had to make sure that the sequins didn't flip over and they're all going the right way. I did my holes far enough apart so that they just sit nicely kind of next to each other. They overlap ever so slightly, but hardly at all really. Okay, so my stitching is complete on that heart now, and I'm just going to try and tie off my thread. So I should have said at the beginning of this video that actually I did fatten up this cut file slightly. I applied a narrow offset to it in my Silhouette software. I think it was offset 0.40, so it was quite a narrow, small offset, but it just fattened it up slightly because I was just worried it was going to be a little bit too thin for what I wanted to do with it. I've just tied off my thread there, and what it was that I did was I tried to sellotape down the piece of thread on the back, but because the cut file is quite slim, this was a bit tricky, and actually I don't think it's going to stick that well. So next time I do this, I'm going to tie the thread on the back rather than use tape, because the tape obviously is too wide for the cut file. So I'm going to do the same effect around the heart at the bottom, I've pulled out some different sequins this time. So instead of trying to find all of the same ones, I learned from that mistake. I am going to go around in a pattern. So I'm going to have, there seem to be lots of little flowers in this one. It's a really lovely set actually, it's gorgeous, and there seem to be lots of these little flowers. So I'm using 3 of those, followed by a round darker coloured pink sequin, and then another one, and another little flower, another different type of flower, and then I'm going back to my 3 flowers, and I'm going to do that all the way around the little heart there, and again it's a bit of a labour of love. It takes a little while to do, but it looks fab once they're all stitched in place. If I'd had more of the same sequins, I think I would have gone around more of the hearts, or I might have gone around the whole of the larger heart, but in this case, because they were tiny and lots of little different designs, it wasn't going to work too well. So perhaps I should have chosen a different sequin set to use to do this technique, but I'm going with it. And it does actually look fab. It looks really fab. But yeah, I do wish I'd been able to go around the whole of the outside as well, although this layout then would have taken several days. Anyway, I'm getting there. I'm nearly done with stitching those in place now. So I chose to use a silver thread in this case because I thought that the silver colour went better with the colour of the paper and the sequin mix than the gold. However, there are gold sequins in this mix, so perhaps I should have gone that way. There also turns out that there's gold in some of the embellishments for this collection too, so really I wished I'd gone with gold instead of the silver, but I'd already gone this far at this point, so there wasn't a lot I could do about it. So sometimes you just have to go with whatever you've started. So okay, that is all of my stitching done. Hooray! And I'm just tying off my thread there. So I used tied this time instead of used tape. And now I can start making the rest of my layout now. So I'm just having a look there, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm planning to use some of the these stickers from the Heidi Swap Colour Fresh collection. I didn't get any of the embellishments of this one, unfortunately. I was too late, so I'm stuck with just the stickers and not a lot else, and a few of the papers, and that's it. So I'm having to raid my stash to find out what else I can use, and I managed to pull out a couple of bits of paper from the Cocoa Vanilla Midnight collection, which worked quite well. And what I'm doing now is I'm just going to get this cut file stuck onto my background. I'm going to stick with a white background, yeah, I'm just going to get I'm using some foam pads to raise it up slightly. So I'm not too worried about the whole thing standing up perfectly, but I just didn't want it to be completely flat. I wanted some of it to kind of pop up a little bit. And you can see that I'm kind of positioning it over to the top a little bit and over to the right. And that's because I would like to put my photo down at the bottom left-hand side, and I just felt like I needed a bit of extra space. Did you notice there I added the middle part of the A from all the fields? That was the only piece on the sheet that I needed to remember to save. But I raised that up on a foam pad as well, so I've put foam pads behind all of the words, all the letters, and I've raised up some parts of the cut file in other places as well. And now what I'm doing is I'm just adding in a strip of that same paper down the side of the paper, so side of the background even. So I have I brought that pattern in. I did think about having it as a border. I did have enough to have it as a border, but then it didn't look quite right. It seemed like it would be too much. So I just thought that strip on the left hand side gives it a bit of a grounding there. So that's what I've done. There is, I'm just trying to make a photo cluster now. I didn't want to cut into any of my other Heidi Swap papers. I wanted to keep those to use for other projects, so therefore I went looking for other bits of paper to use as a cluster, and I've got that that sticker there that says here's the story. That's from that Heidi Swap sticker sheet, so I'm actually going to cover up most of it, unfortunately, but it's a lovely colour and it works really well in my photo cluster, so that's what I'm using there. And I've just got a little tiny bit of red there to go down the right hand side of the photo stack, and just getting all of that stuck in place. And then I have got the perfect place now to start adding embellishments. I want to extend the cluster around the photograph, so I've pulled out a few bits that I think will work, and the whole cut file has a kind of diagonal feel to it, with the hearts at the bottom going bottom left, even going up to several more hearts at the top right, so it kind of has this diagonal feel. So I'm going to use the little teeny tiny heart sequins in the sequin mix to sprinkle those all diagonally across the layout. So there they are there, just putting them all in. They are going to be a bit challenging to stick down, but I'm sure I will manage. Yeah, just getting everything stuck in place now. My little labels, oh there you go, there's a gold sticker going on. That's when I realised, I was like, oh whoops, I should have used gold thread. Yeah, so just getting everything stuck down now, including those little teeny tiny hearts. So I use glossy accents to stick down my sequins. Now these little teeny tiny heart shaped sequins are open hearts. They have little holes in the middle of them, which makes them to be stuck down even more challenging than normal sequins, because they're very, very tiny and they have a small amount of place that can take the adhesive. So I'm just basically putting a little blob down for each one and setting each teeny tiny sequin into each blob. I was getting in all sorts of bother here. I was getting them stuck to my nails, I was getting the glossy accents wouldn't come out, and then it would come out too much, so and I was getting really sticky. So I reverted to this pick me up tool. It's a silhouette thing, and it's just got basically a bit of blue tack on one end and a spike on the other end. Spike comes out, so I've got, you can see I'm picking up each sequin there, they're super tiny, and then I'm using the other end to make sure that they don't stay stuck to the end of the thing with the blue tack. So anyway, pick me up tool, that was quite useful in this case. I don't always use it, I hardly ever use it actually, but it was useful in this case. So I'm just feeling that the other side of the layout is a little bit blank, so should I add anything to that side? I tried it out with that piece of torn paper but decided against it, and I'm now also trying to find some other embellishments that will go in with this layout. So I've gone to my use it or lose it pouch full of embellishments that have like random things in from different collections. There goes a few of them there. That little acrylic envelope is by Freckled Fawn, I've had for goodness knows how long, and those hearts and stars are by Elle Studio or Pink Fresh, can't remember, but they had a few hearts and things that would work, so I'm putting both of those in, and I pulled out those little butterflies as well. They are by Prima, I believe, and they came in a hip kit quite some time ago, so they've been in my little lose it or lose it stash pouches for a little while now, so it was nice to get a couple of those used up. I always feel like it's a big win when I use up something from those pouches. Okay, so I'm really nearly done now. What I'm doing off screen is looking up the date of the photo, and I'm just about to hand write in my journaling. I use a grey pen. I think it looks better on the stark white background than the black, which sometimes looks a bit too harsh. So, and I use a 0.3, it's my favourite thickness. Now I'm going around the curve of the heart, which means that my journaling ends up upside down at the top, which isn't really ideal. So that's why I've put my date over on the left hand side instead of going around the top of the heart, because it's still upside down. Okay, so that is me done. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed my little stitching technique. That was Niki Rowland for Spiegel Mom Scraps, and don't forget to enter code Niki15 on the Spiegel Mom Scraps store for a 15% discount. Happy scrapping!